That's right. When you hear the howl, you know it's about to go down. Welcome to another episode of the Mindful Warrior podcast. Hello, Mindful Warriors. Thanks for joining us again. My name's Nate Jackson. I'm here with Eb and Britton. How you doing, Eb?
I'm stellar, man.
On
How are
fire.
you? I'm on fire right now.
Yeah.
I feel like an energy rod.
Right?
Yeah.
With us, as always, Gerard Bauer. How you doing, Jed?
I'm doing great.
Jed's on the mic today,
Looking
as you guys can tell. We don't have a guest. We're going to get into some other stuff, but we'd be remiss if we didn't give a shout-out to Gandalf the Grey, sitting patiently at our feet, as always. Hey, Gandalf.
He's really, isn't he beautiful? He's majestic.
He is.
Majestic little beast.
Yeah.
So, Jed, tell us what we're getting into today.
We are going to talk about shamans, shamanism, shamanic rituals, things like that, because unknown to the listener right now is that you guys just participated in a very cool shamanic ritual, and we're going to talk about it.
I love it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty stoked on it.
Yeah.
What did we do, Nate?
3 hours ago, we did a session called Kambo.
Ooh.
Kambo.
Yes.
We were told this actually in the jungle in Brazil. It's pronounced Kampu.
Kampu.
And what it is a poisonous frog secretes
The green monkey frog.
Right. Secretes a certain type of liquid that, when applied to a burn, courses through your veins and has an effect that I would liken to a 10-minute flu. Yeah, right.
Sounds delicious.
It comes on really fast, and it's from the shoulders up. You feel it pulsing in your head. You feel your heartbeat in your ears. It starts to get very full of blood and heat and energy in your head.
Yeah.
Is that what you felt, Eb?
I would, my description over the last 3 times, because today was my third, today was your second. It's as if someone turned on a faucet of energy through the top of your head, and it's surging through you, really from your heart up.
All right. Well, let's not
go too far.
Let's not go too far.
Let's not blow our load.
Let's not blow the load.
Sorry.
I want to introduce everybody to this concept and ask you guys a couple questions about your first impressions kind of this ritualistic medicine, and go back to when you're young, maybe your first just idea of what this actually is, like your first impression.
I'll go first.
Yeah, you go first.
Let's go back to when I was a kid.
Let's do it.
Religion. I wasn't brought up particularly religious. I guess you could say that for a time we considered ourselves Christians, not necessarily following the Bible, went to church occasionally, but there was definitely a strong sense of spirituality from both my mom and dad. And that, Christianity and formal religion sort of dissipated as I got older. I was always a guy that, I found it not my thing. The going to church, the story of the Bible, it didn't necessarily resonate with me growing up. I remember pretty much as far back as I can think that I always had this curiosity, this interest in the shamanic arts. I was thinking about it earlier how at some point, I think probably in high school, I heard about peyote. Never taken it, still have never taken it, but the idea of it going on this journey, this spiritual journey, really fascinated me. Fast forward through my football career, never really partook in any sort of shamanic ceremony.
Well, real quick, what did that mean to you, shamanic? Like, did you have a picture in your head, or like a movie, a book?
A guy shaking a stick with face paint on?
It's very mystical, a lot of like with a a skull headdress on, covered in, bear skins.
Hawk feathers.
Hawk feathers, conjuring the spirits, communing with the spirits. There's a very mystical aspect to it that I was always very drawn to. And I think that's really where my cannabis use stemmed from, was this, idea of communing with the spirits, having one foot in the spirit realm, one foot in the material world, and being able to communicate and get answers, seek answers from a higher power, from our spirit guides. And that to me was really the essence of shamanism at that point. So fast forward to after my football career, and I was always really, looking back on the teams I was on, I was always really the shaman of my football teams. I was always pointing guys to, different supplements. I was the energetic, emotional leader of the team on all my teams.
Which shows you how powerful football is as a sport, because even though you are that person, and even though you have those tendencies, and you galvanize people around you in that way, you were still a part of that machine, and you were taking all these pills and taking the injections and doing all this stuff that was so anti-shamanic.
Right.
It was away from all the things that you're learning now.
Yeah. And I think that really broke me down. That broke me down to the point where by the end of my football career, I had sort of lost touch with that part of myself, through the pills, through the pain, through the thousands of subconcussive hits I took through my years as an offensive lineman. I really lost touch with that internal curiosity that I had. And so coming out of my career, now going into my fourth year out, I met this dude. I met this guy named Kirk.
The Luck Bubble,
who we had on this podcast a few weeks ago. And he really re-inspired or helped me remember all of this stuff that I had been so interested in and really just had this curiosity about. And next thing I know, we're having coffee, and he says, "Eb, you want to do some Kambo? I keep hearing the spirits tell me about Kambo. You want to do Kambo?" And I'm like, "What the fuck is Kambo?" I've heard about ayahuasca, I've heard about peyote, I've heard about those, very, vision quest, type substances, but I hadn't really heard of Kambo. And he starts telling me about the frog. And, it was very, it felt as though it was something. And then the next thing I know, I'm hearing everybody talk about Kambo. The way higher power works, the way the spirits work as they communicate through other people. For me, that's how it seems to be. I speak, my higher power speaks to me through other people. And Kambo just kept emerging. And even my mom, we had a family dinner one night where I told my family, I'm like, "Hey guys, I think I'm going to try this thing called Kambo. It's a poisonous frog. Don't freak out." Where they burn you and they put it in you, and you have this whole purging experience.
It's a tough sell for a loved one.
Yeah.
At first.
And it was, there was a lot of fear, understandably, obviously. There was a lot of, what does this mean? Who are you? Where are you going with this? But as I started to explain it to them, which we'll get into, it really became clear like this was part of my destiny path. This is something I needed to do to shed the final skins of that football self in many ways and reemerge as my true self that I am for this next chapter of my life. And it's fucking profound. I'm sitting here right now. I've never been so emotionally clear, so energetically clear. Waking up this morning just full of positivity and power, like I literally feel like a lightning rod, and not in the, Adderall-y kind of sense, not in the amphetamine dosed sense that's like full of jitters and uncontrolled sort of electricity. This is like this re-engagement into my life that I haven't experienced in a long time.
Nice. Now let's shoot over to Nate here and see if you can top what he said.
Well, I think we're very different in that regard because I have a lot of psychedelic friends and psychedelic family, but I, as a youth, wasn't really drawn to the shaman way of life. People, I would imagine that my friends around me and, the teams I've been on wouldn't have considered me the shaman of the team. Whatever they consider me, I don't know. But I have always been a little bit reluctant to go into that hallucinogenic world. Full disclaimer, though, Kambo is not a hallucinogenic. There are no visuals. There's no, hallucinations or anything like that. It's strictly a sensation of blood pumping and then a purging. We didn't get into this already, but there's vomiting that goes on.
Yeah.
But these were ideas that I was a little bit distant from.
So your spiritual and religious background, would it prepare you for something like this, or are you standard it's kind of Christian when I grew up and then lost touch?
Yeah, kind of Christian. Went to church until I was 10 or 11, and I had soccer tournaments or swim meets every weekend, and my parents were like, "Fuck it, we don't have to do that anymore." I was introduced to God, but I've always felt definitely spiritual. I've always felt God's presence in my life, but I had never really equated it with medicines. And so I credit you, Eben, for bringing me into this world because, although I have been, I've had mushrooms before, done a little bit of this and that, but never with an intent. And that's, I think, what we learned in the last couple of days is about it's your intent. And
Right.
so when you're going into these things before you ingest the medicine or whatever it is, you have to visualize your intent. What are you trying to get out of this? And that's not to say you're going to get that exactly out of it. But it centers you. It centers you in the moment, and it kind of, peels back those layers.
Now, have you guys, even though you said intent, have you had really spiritual psychedelic experiences where you kind of stumbled upon something during that experience, and you're like, "Wow, that's profound," and it kind of stuck with you? Have you guys had that, or has it been very recreational?
I did when I was eating mushrooms one time. In the forest, and I puked up something that looked like an organ that came out of my body. Not an organ like a piano, but like a human organ.
Like a mini liver.
But at the same time that was happening, bagpipes started playing.
Wow.
So from somewhere in the forest. They were definitely bagpipes. They were real. It wasn't a hallucination because the other two buddies I was with confirmed when I found them that there were bagpipes. But
always happens too.
Amazing.
But that's as far as I've gone with it. I've never really pushed the envelope with dosages. I've never really pushed the envelope in other ways. I mean, I have family that has, and I have friends that have, and I've learned a lot about it. But for whatever reason, I was, I'm a little bit anxious sometimes. I'm a little bit, jokey. I'm a little bit high strung, and I don't know if that's the right disposition.
Right.
For a shaman. And so I've always been a little, let's be honest, man. But I'm learning, and I think that part of it is amazing because I'll tell you that I've had some stomach issues that have been going on, a lot of bloating. My diet hasn't been great. I feel like there's something festering in there. And that was part of the reason why I wanted to do the combo because as our shaman told us that in the jungle, a lot of times when they do this is to initiate a diet.
Right.
So if you want to purge yourself, if you want to get rid of what's inside of you, then you take this, and that absolutely had that effect. I mean, the last 2 days, the stuff that came out of my body, battery acid. Straight up toxic waste, green bile, like dark green bile. That you can hear it in my throat that it's a little scratchy because that came up through my throat and it kind of burned it a little bit. But I feel very clear.
Yeah. Well, I will say that we once shared a psychedelic
Oh, yeah,
experience.
we did. Right here.
And you had a very, a reality purge.
Oh, my God.
When,
Interesting.
Because when we were taking mushrooms here, we were essentially having a jam, playing some music, which is a great thing to do. It's great to have an activity. That was our intent, was to play. And Nate got a call in the middle that his house in Denver had flooded in the middle of the winter. Pipe had burst.
Was currently flooding.
Currently
I got a call saying, Nate, your garage door is open and water is pouring into the street.
Right.
And I'm here.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that was.
And that was like a purge in a way, because I think
Absolutely,
it probably gave you a lot to think about.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? And it's one of those situations where that stuff is always happens when you're on some of these experiences. People have those reality intruding moments, and man, they put things in perspective.
It did. It
Definitely.
changed the course of my life for the next several years, having to deal with that, because it cost a lot of money and a lot of manpower to fix that. Everything had to be ripped out, the floors, the walls, the ceiling had collapsed. It was the second floor where it started, and it was going on for probably 24 to 36 hours before I got that call.
No one was living there?
No one was there.
Ugh.
The pipes burst in 17 different spots. And so when they thawed out, the water's just flowing through these holes in the pipes until everything just starts to freaking melt. That was rough.
Yeah, that was a purge, man.
That's a moment, man.
It was a
That's an
moment.
event.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Well, one thing both of you guys touched on when it comes to spirituality is you had a sense of spiritualness. And I think everybody does. And it's actually one of the things I ran across when I was looking some of this stuff up for this episode was there's this thing called animism. And it's like the primal trait of religion, which is everything is everything. There is energy out there. This is before we start talking about good and bad spirits, evil, or even like a higher. We talk, in this case, a higher power is not a god. The higher power just is. It's just the order.
Right.
It's much like the Force in Star Wars.
Yes.
And I think everybody has that in their life, and they're always kind of afraid to really talk about it, but it's the most. And people feel stupid sometimes because they're like, well, I don't want to be an agnostic because that's like a cop-out, But it is the root of everybody's spirituality to sense that something connects us all.
Absolutely.
And something, and some of that is actual science. Now we figure out some of those things, but there's still a spiritual plane.
Through quantum physics and such.
Yeah, that there is an aspect to it that's, deep inside our bodies and our brains. And even they think that, before we became Homo sapiens, that there was a social animals picked up on this. And so even like maybe a dog like Gandalf has a sense of that.
Oh, absolutely. I think dogs are totally spiritual beings.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
And-
you guys ready to get into it now? We've given a little background.
Yeah,
to everything.
let's do it,
Let's
man.
get into it.
So let's set the scene. You guys walk into this house. You guys get butt naked, right?
Butt naked.
Yeah. Butt naked and dive into a pond.
There's candles. Wait, should we talk? Let me give a little background on the green monkey frog. So how they procure this toxin. So the shamans go into the jungle.
It's Brazilian,
and the
Amazonian.
Amazonian. And this particular tribe is called the Yawanawa tribe. And
Takes 4 flights to get there, plus like 6
No,
hours.
you think this is common throughout other tribes, and you guys are connected with this tribe for this ceremony.
Yeah.
But is it probably widespread?
I think there's probably other indigenous tribes in the Amazon are using Kambo.
I mean, it's so prevalent on the internet. There are other people having these experiences for sure.
Right, and like you looked up, there's this international association of Kambo practitioners now.
Oh, really?
Where essentially, it's Westerners, Europeans have gone into the Amazon, learned these practices from the medicine men and women, the shamans of the tribes, and they're bringing it into the West. It's a big part of this plant intelligence spreading itself into, modern day society and culture. So what they do is they go into the jungle, and these frogs, the green monkey frog, you can hear them singing, and there's legends of how these things sing and bring the rain, and the shamans know the call to essentially bring these things down from the trees. They catch them by the feet, hold them upside down, and take these sticks and just gently scrape the toxin off of the frogs, and they collect this toxin. Don't harm the frog, release the frog back into the tree. Then they take the toxin. She's got it in a little vial, which then they put onto a stick. And it's sort of mucusy. You can see it's mucusy, so they put it on this little stick. And what they do is they burn you.
Right.
So
Should we get
now
right
we'll
into
get
the?
into that. Now we can get into that.
So
Well, I mean, what's the room like at this point when you guys are getting prepped for this?
So
it's-
we've got these bearskin mats on the floor. It's very comfortable.
it's a large kind of open, great room with a really high ceiling, wooden floors.
So
Very
simple but comfortable.
Yes, very sparse as far as furniture. There really is no furniture. There's no TV. There's no couch. There's no table. You know, it's just a big kind of open room that has some tapestries hanging on the walls,
Some idols
some idols.
from Ganesh to, various indigenous idols and feathers, and there's incense going.
Now, are they? We're seeing. Ooh, whoa, sorry. We're seeing some idols from different religious backgrounds. So there's not like a god, a particular god they're trying to work you on. They're just,
No.
it's just like, hey, get relaxed, get
Yeah.
your mind open,
Yeah.
kind of situation.
And it all
Exactly.
seems like a very, personal thing. Like, it's not about here's the right way and this is what you're going to discover when
Right.
you do it. It's more like, what do you need?
Right.
Here's this thing and heal what's going on with you. Because I went last week and watched first. I was a little, curious, a little reluctant. So I watched Eben and 2 or 3 other guys do it. And everyone had a different reaction. And so that showed me that, everybody's got a different process for this. And so, yeah, you walk in, we have to drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
Like
Bring
a whole
2
gallon.
gallons.
Yeah, bring 2 gallons, and we don't even start until the first gallon is gone. Because the water's part of the purging process. It helps facilitate that. If you got nothing in your stomach, it's going to be hard to get anything out.
Yeah. You don't want to hurt yourself either if you start dry heaving,
Right.
etc.
Exactly. Which is what I just did, actually. Even though I had a gallon plus of water, like at one of the last heaves, I pulled a muscle in my abs or my ribs or something.
You were clearing it, dude.
I was clearing it. I had to get it out. So there's a little place for you to sit, and prior to the actual combo, there's something called hape or rape, which is a tobacco kind of powder that's essentially blown up your nose. It's very ritualistic. It's the apparatus that's used to blow up your nose is very ornate. It was made of boar bone and alligator teeth.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah. And so there's a ceremony to that as well, and it's a little shocking to have that
You take
blown up your nose.
You take a breath in
Yeah.
through the nose, hold it. They take the horn, blow the hape into your one nostril, and you literally feel it open up your whole one side of your brain. It's like fireworks crackling through each hemisphere of your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you got some nicotine in there that's going to already increase your blood pressure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys ever dipped or anything like that.
Did a lot of dip.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know how tobacco can hit you, and it's like, woo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's like an ash almost. I
Yeah.
wouldn't,
It's very fine.
It's it's tobacco mixed with specific herbs and trees, specific herbs and leaves from trees, and it's a very fine ash. So you get it, exhale. It can be harsh. Today was the first time I didn't cough, but it's very clearing. It clears the sinuses. Your brain just feels like it's woken up, and I think that's a big part of it for us football players. Guys or anyone who's suffered traumatic brain injuries, what this stuff does is it's like turning on light switches that haven't been on in years probably.
Yeah.
Opening up the blood flow, opening up the capillaries and the veins and the arteries in there to increase blood flow.
Yeah.
And begin the circulation. So, and also something I thought was really interesting, the hape is, it's optional. You don't have to do it. But what I found with the hape is that it's very grounding before this really intense physical ordeal you're about to endure. So it really gets you centered into yourself to prepare you for the for the combo. Did you find that?
Yeah, I did. And actually, last week when I just observed, she asked me if I wanted to do the hape, and I said yes, and I did the hape only. And I felt different when I left. I felt calm. I felt more focused, less affected by all the things going on around me. So absolutely, I mean, it definitely prepares you for it. They also say that it's supposed to help with the purging. Kind of prime you for that purging.
Yeah, because if you take a lot of nicotine, you will
throw up.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I mean, tobacco gets a pretty bad rap because of the smoking aspect, but tobacco does have a lot of chemicals in it, like natural tobacco,
Right.
that are probably, nicotine is a stimulant, helps you, and it's also an analgesic, helps kill pain. So, that's all pretty interesting. And let's not shit on tobacco just because people die from terrible cigarettes.
Yeah, well, these shamans are using mapacho tobacco, which is a specific, it's like an indigenous tobacco. No, you're right, though. I mean, tobacco does have a lot of medicinal qualities. It's just that in the West, we've taken it, thrown pesticides and all kinds of shit in with it. So now cigarettes are just, cancer sticks, essentially.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, the traditional tobacco, clean, can be very medicinal. He talks about it in the Cosmic Serpent.
Yeah, and the smoked version, essentially, like the shamans of the town will heal children by smoking tobacco and blowing the tobacco on wherever the child is
ill,
having the ailment. Yeah, and the child
gets better.
Gets better. Gets better. And I do think that hape has some kind of healing powers
absolutely
on its own.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that was just prime.
Yeah.
For the main event.
So after the hape, you guys
were meditating, a lot of just breathing, just preparing yourself mentally and physically for the ceremony. For me, it was just about setting the intention, locking in on what I wanted to get out of this thing, and just meditating on that. And then the next thing you know,
and you're drinking water.
You're drinking water.
Like, drink up,
You just keep drinking water through this whole deal. You're just continuing to drink water. By the time you get to the combo, I've had about a gallon and a quarter of water. And she heats up this little stick. She burns this little stick. It looks like an incense stick. And she comes over and on your left arm starts burning tiny holes in your arm. We each have our own designs, which is pretty cool. I think that she makes it into a specific pattern.
And today when I got the first burn hit me, I smiled. It was such a good feeling for whatever reason.
Isn't that fascinating?
I don't know if it was the pain or I'm used to enjoying pain, or if it was the anticipation of what was happening. Whatever it was, that burn hit me and I was like, yes.
Yeah.
I think we just found Nate's new fetish.
Burn me.
No, man, it's true. And there is a reason for the burning as well. You read stories online about people who think you can go smoke the combo toxin and it triggers this frog brain disease, which sounds really awful.
Yeah.
But there's a specific reason, because when they burn just the first, maybe, I don't know, 1 or 2 layers of the dermis, of the skin, that creates a chemical reaction with the peptides.
That locks it in, right? That sterilizes it.
Sterilizes the harmful part of the frog's toxin. So you get the holes. I think I started with 6, and today I think I was at 8 or 9. She gave me a pretty solid dose.
What they say is that you're supposed to do 3 sessions within 1 moon cycle.
Right.
Which is supposed to, maximize the effect and
the effect.
Yeah.
So then she's got her combo sticks prepped, and she takes what looks like a little scalpel and scrapes a little bit of the toxin off at a time and starts essentially just spackling up those burn holes with the combo. And while I'm sitting there, you start to feel the frog medicine really move through you. And for me, the number one thing it did was it went right to the base of my skull and it was like an opening. It was like someone turned on a faucet of energy and blood flow, and it begins to circulate. And like Nate was saying, it really, you feel it neck and head, and you just feel the pulsing of, the heartbeat, the drum beat of your heart, of your spirit, of the frog. I feel like it's very it feels very froggy.
You got a frog in your throat.
Yeah. You can feel the pulse of the frog. You can feel the pulse of the jungle. And as intense as it is, I would say it's very gentle. There's a gentility about it, of the way it flows through your body and seeks out the blockages.
And it happens very fast and it goes away very fast. And so it's never feeling exactly the same. You're never stuck on like a plane of when's this going to end type of thing. It's always in motion.
Yeah, evolving.
It rises. It's like a rainbow, it rises and then it falls.
Yeah.
Just as quick. I mean, it's like a 10-minute flu.
Yeah.
In a way.
The science, some of the science I looked at is, one of the things it does is it hits your adrenal gland.
Yes.
Which is probably,
yes. The one thing that keeps coming to me, it's like a hormonal reset. It's like rebooting your hormonal system, like you said. Because I read the same thing, where it talks about how it goes to your adrenal gland, your pituitary gland, and it just ignites those things. And I think my interpretation, my understanding is that the whole thing, and it's how I feel essentially, is it's a hormonal reset for the body to get you back to center, back to, your truest self, your purest being.
So it hits you guys pretty quickly once she's got it. Like
yeah,
it's
and for me, I was always last, and so I was watching everyone go before I was. And today, and actually yesterday, it was just me and Eben, so I was watching her burn him, and then I was watching her apply it, and then I kind of watched it hit him, as she moves over to me and does the burns on me and puts it in. And the first kind of couple dots of combo she puts on, I started to feel the tingle in my arm, and then it's just above the shoulders, and I start to feel like a blood hose just pumping, just whoa, whoa. On my eyeballs were like, whoa, whoa. My ears, I could hear my heart in my ears, and it was hot, It was hot, and I started to sweat. And then a couple minutes later, you start to feel nauseous.
Yeah.
But it's not like, so when I was going into this, I was thinking, well, are people trying to puke? Are you telling yourself you're going to puke? And then you just start, because when I witnessed it last week, a couple of the guys were just kind of spitting, like,
dry heaving.
But not really, nothing was coming out, even though they drank a bunch of water. So I wasn't sure how the vomit would come, but it comes very naturally. It's like, first you got this head thing that's for a couple of minutes, like, whoa, 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 and then it goes down, and your stomach just says, evacuate.
Yeah.
And the stuff that was coming, when I started to, they supply tissues, they supply buckets to puke in. So we were fortified in that regard, and they're very, they're very gentle about that. You don't have to feel weird about if you're drooling, or nobody's like looking at you like, oh, it's a very forgiving environment to be that vulnerable.
Yes.
Because you are very vulnerable in that moment. But the stuff that came out when I vomited, now one of my main intentions was to get right with my body and what's going on in my belly. And the stuff that came out of my belly was dark green, bubbly bile. Like I said, toxic. And I could feel it. I felt so good getting that out. And today it went a little further, went a little deeper and scraped a little more. But it wasn't as bad. I mean, the stuff that came out didn't burn as bad. It was cleaner. Yeah, it was cleaner.
Yeah, no, I felt that too from the first time to this time. And even yesterday, yesterday I felt like I was clearing out a lot of the bucket, the contents of my gut. But today it was much clearer. There was much more water. There was much less toxicity to it. The colors weren't as, I think I threw up I definitely, the first couple had a lot of yellows and greens and orange and even some black specks come up. Today it was very clear. There was some green. but it was very. I should hit this point, but I started the initial throwing up, threw up a little bit, and it subsided, but I could still feel the medicine working through me, and I really could feel it sitting down in the right corner of my stomach, bottom right corner of my stomach. And what it felt like to me was I had my appendix removed my last year in the league. I had a horrible appendicitis. And it felt as though the medicine was literally sitting in that spot, working on it like spiritual surgery. And it was about 10 minutes of just sitting there with this feeling the medicine course through me, still feeling that energy flow circulating. But then after about 10 minutes, then I really purged. I let the rest of it go, and it felt amazing. It was as if they had cleared out the scar tissue, the damage that had been done from that appendicitis in that last final purge.
Well, and Eben and I are both loud vomiters.
Yeah, violent.
So we're just like, rah, ray, ray. It was cool. And
it was cool.
It was cool. And like we were talking about, it happens very fast. And so
happens very fast.
Yeah, and then as it starts to subside, it just goes away. It just completely goes away. That feeling of being nauseous completely goes away. The pulsing in the head, the ears, eyes, it just totally dissipates. And then you kind of, when you feel like you can lie down and you're not going to puke anymore, we just lie down, and she tucks us in, puts blankets on us, and gives us a pillow, puts some tissue next to us, and we kind of take a little nap, 15, 20 minutes. And then you kind of open your eyes and you start to look around, and you look next to you, and there's a couple cups with some liquid in it, one with some electrolytes and one with some tea. Helps bring you back. And then we kind of sat around, talking for another 30 minutes or 45 minutes.
Yeah. And you feel incredibly serene and clear and calm. It's as if your body just had like a deep rain come through it. One thing that we didn't get it today, but the last two times we got the Sananga.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sananga.
So the Sananga, I'm not exactly sure. It is a plant medicine. Comes from the Amazon, and it's sort of the post-ceremony post-ceremony substance, and it's eye drops. And they put these eye drops in, and it burns like nothing you've ever experienced before in your life for about 30 to 60 seconds.
Burns in your eyes.
Yeah.
Burns in your eyes.
Oh, yeah, real bad. Just like some very, very powerful eye drops.
So what they say is that, first of all, that burning is that it's burning off the dead cells that are on your eye. So it clears your external vision, but it also increases your own internal insight into yourself, into your own mechanisms of how you function as a human being. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, and I loved that. I felt like I was seeing very clearly after that. And one thing they were talking about is these tribes. There's a plant for everything in the jungle that can do everything. I mean, and how did they know that? Did they go to school? No. Did they get their PhD? No. The plants told them that, or the people of their tribe introduced them to that, because the forest talks to you if you listen to it. And someone at home might be thinking, "Wow, you're going to put this weird thing called, what's it called?
Sananga.
Sananga in your eyes, in your eyeballs." Well, is there a Sananga plant? Is that what it is?
We have to look it up.
Yeah,
I haven't looked that up.
Need to know more about that. But yeah, I found that pretty powerful. I enjoyed that part of it for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like you were saying, they were telling us the story of fishing, which I thought was so fucking just amazing. To hear.
So after we were done, real quick, we talked about the village, because our shaman, our leader, was there along with her friend, who has also been to this village and had some.
And shaman is a gender neutral term, just in case anybody's getting offended out there.
Yes, shaman
and actually, full disclosure, when she said, "I'm not a shaman," the plants are the shamans.
Right.
I'm just introducing you to this. So there's no, like we're talking about the hawk feathers and the shaking sticks. There was nothing like that going on. Some of it does happen in the forest, in the jungle, but we sat and talked for a while. They showed us photos of
the people.
Yeah, the people. I mean, the elder man in the tribe is 106 years old.
People aren't even exactly sure how old he is. Dude looks like he's about 70.
Yeah, like 106 or 108. Yeah, he looks 70. I mean, these people look young. She said, like, these people in the tribe, the kids, will drink a little bit of ayahuasca. The kids are very wise. They're hunters as well. And she said, like, the kids look old, and then they get to a certain point and they stop aging. And then they look young when they're older. They look old when they're young and young when they're old.
Yeah.
But tell the fishing story.
So essentially, the whole tribe, or at least a good portion of it, men, women, and children, all take this, go on this mission to fish, to gather fish for food for the tribe. And this dude who was telling us, who's actually a former football coach.
Yeah, Joshua.
Very Western dude, awesome, incredible man.
Coached college football for 14 years at Azusa Pacific.
A shaman himself, for sure. He administered the hape today with this beautiful ceremony of a tarot card draw, holding the hape to our heart to really cement the intention of the ceremony. And he talks about how they're like, yeah, he's down in the village. They're like, you want to come fishing? And he's like, yeah, hell yeah. And he's thinking like fishing rods or whatever it's going to be. And essentially they just take this hike into the forest. And
they start going uphill.
And they start going
like, where are we going? Like the river's back there.
And so they get these plants. I wasn't sure what plants they were. They get these plants, these huge leaves, and they start digging like a 3-foot hole in the ground. And he's like, what is going on? Are we fishing in the hole? Like, is that the secret? Like, what's the deal? And they put these plants in the hole. They dig a 3-foot hole, put these plants in the hole, and they grind these plants into a very fine powder. And when they're done grinding it into this really fine powder, the kids come and they wrap it in these nets and these bags. And then they take these bags to the river. And when they get to the river, they open up these bags of this powdered plant into the river, into the water. And he said literally fish just start jumping into the boat.
Yeah, they start jumping out of the water.
You're just catching fish in your hands. And he said at one point he had 30 fish in his arms. And that's like Nate was saying, they have a plant for literally every aspect of life. Plants are the healing tools. Plants are the tools for life in this culture.
Do they have an explanation spiritually for that, or
the plants told them?
Right.
He didn't have that information. I'm sure they do. I would love to know more about the powdered plant and the fishing.
Well, as pertains to the cosmic serpent that we read, there was a shaman who was walking along and told the guy who was writing it, yeah, I mean that's what heals snake bite.
Right.
And he's like, well, how do you know that? He said, well, it tells us. I mean, look at those two leaves the way they are. That says that you use that for snake bites. And so there's a lot of knowledge that's transferred between the jungle and the people.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about what's going on right now is that this tribe is open to spreading this message into the Western world, into the modern world, into our fucked up lives. They're not like, no, don't come here. Right. They're like, yes, we want to spread this. We want to help you guys,
Yeah.
And so that's what's kind of cool about it. Because I always thought, we were talking about Kirk being a corporate shaman. And I'm thinking, is that an oxymoron?
Right.
Can we bring that world into this world?
Right.
And it seems as if, yes, that might be our destiny.
Yeah.
If it's not our destiny, at least it's something that's being tried, because this tribe is now, traveling and teaching things to other people. So it's pretty cool.
I think we're really at this critical juncture in the West where the material aspect of our life has overwhelmed us to such an extent that we've disconnected from our humanity. And a lot of what this is, it's about reconnecting with love and spirituality and togetherness and community. And, I think that's much of what this, plant intelligence, nature coming into the West is all about.
Yeah.
And this conscious evolution we're on.
I think there's a big dietary element to it too, at least as far as the combo goes, because here we are near Venice. You look around, you can get Indian food, you get Mexican food, you can get every type of food you want, and it's tempting to eat everything, which I do, and I started to feel this rot in my belly, and this can be a remedy for that, where it can kind of restart your health, restart your gut health, purge yourself, and then start with a new diet. She tells us that no sugar, no meat, and no sex.
Yeah.
That's the diet. For as long as you can do it. So she's and also no cannabis or alcohol before, 24 hours before, or 24 hours after. We asked about cannabis as a medicine. She said it's a good medicine, but you can't just be getting stoned out of your mind all the time.
Right.
Type of thing. But I think as far as, an immediate applicable reason why someone would do this, aside from the spiritual realm, is physical, to get your body working right.
Right.
The amount of water that you drink, that's really good for you.
Yeah.
We should be drinking more water.
Yeah.
And drinking a gallon of water makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're talking about Western and it's technically Eastern, because a lot of the studying shamanism definitely isolated it to Northern Asia.
Yeah.
And the people who then came over to America from Northern Asia, which is where it's predominant. There are some African shamanistic rituals, but they seem to be a little bit different in their own way. I mean, like I said, there is a primal connection to understanding shamanism, and like we understand that everything in the world has energy and interacts, and we are not alone, and everything we do affects everything. But there is, to bring a little science and Western medicine into this, the guy who actually studied it, an Italian guy, studied Kambo.
Oh, interesting.
And he found all these things you're talking about, like, they have a scientific basis. There is, there's these amino acids, they're peptides. Those are simple amino acids from high school. Amino acids build proteins.
Boom.
Very important for, growth and healing of your body. And, this is the same guy who won the Nobel Prize for discovering serotonin.
Oh, amazing.
His name is, let's see, what's his name? Vittorio Esperama. He's Italian.
Beautiful.
Well pronounced.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are
you have to go like that. Whenever you say Italian.
It's respectful to the culture.
Right.
But there's over 70 patents related to the chemicals found in Kambo and how they can relate to actual medicine.
Right.
So it's like you guys,
I think it's anti-cancerous.
Yeah, anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is for these bacteria that are becoming resistant to antibiotics. Some of the chemicals in the Kambo actually are, what are they called? Antimicrobial peptides. And they actually are an avenue of research in helping fight these resistant bacteria. Antibiotic resistant bacteria.
Yeah, amazing.
So you guys aren't like, it sounds very woo-woo, but there's some really hard science behind all this stuff. It's not just, I want to get back to the earth, man.
Right.
It's
right.
like, it's real deal.
Yeah.
It's real deal chemistry.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as it pertains to athletes in particular, athletes are used to having these physical experiences that are hard, that maybe hurt, but that are rewarding in a lot of ways. And so if you're used to kind of throwing yourself in the fire, whether it's football or whatever sport you play, this is something that is kind of familiar in a way, a moment of agony for a greater cause and a greater good, and something that can center you after the fact. I mean, I kind of, when you're right in it, it's kind of like, but it's also great at the same time.
Yeah.
When you say that they're studying it and they're studying the chemicals, are they actually giving people these chemicals to combat the ailments that you're talking about?
I mean, I didn't read any like case
Trials
studies,
or anything?
trials, but it sounds like they're finding the chemicals and they're like, oh, these are the same chemicals we would use for
Right.
this, and they know the
Right.
chemistry of like, I recognize this. This is something that we need. We take it in food, because there's like 9 amino acids that we can only get through ingesting them. We can't make them. So there's probably a lot. There's more than I know. Obviously, this is I wanted to look at the science,
Yeah.
and there is a ton of science that's like very supportive of the experiences you guys had and its medicinal effect. The big thing is pain.
Yeah, the pain aspect. When I first did it, I you guys know I'm in good shape. I do everything I can to make sure I'm feeling it the best that I possibly can. But I still have a chronic back pain. It's an ache deep in my lower back. And one session of Kambo literally took it out, removed it.
Are you still symptom free when you're back?
I'm still symptom free in my back. I've got, I wouldn't say that it's made my body totally pain free at this point, but it was pretty remarkable, that aspect of it, removing the back pain. I don't know what that's attributed to. What the shaman, the medicine woman says is that, a lot of our pain in our bodies can be attributed to some sort of spiritual ailment, some sort of energy blockage.
Something you're holding on to?
Something you're holding on to. And so, when the Kambo comes in, the plant medicines come in, they can release those blocks. They can open you up in such a way to get the energy flowing, get the blood flowing back into the area to remove that pain. It's amazing.
I had a similar experience so pretty much every morning when I wake up, roll over, get off the bed, there's a lot of cracks, snaps, and pops.
Yeah.
All over my body. Well, this morning when I rolled up and got out of bed, it was like there was no pops, no snaps. I'm like, what the hell? And I was very crisp right off the bat.
Yeah.
I felt alert and awake right after waking up. And I didn't know if that was because, I was excited about coming here or because I've cleaned up my diet around this, and I think that has something to do with it.
Yeah.
But if that's the result, then great, because if it gets you thinking about diet in a different way,
Right.
not just like, what do I want to eat and what do I not want to eat? Well, how about like, what is it really doing, And how will it affect this process of trying to get my body and my mind right? Yeah.
What do you think about, because they talk about how the warrior's initiation, so essentially what they use Kambo for, not only the diet aspect, but it's to raise the individual's vibration to bring about more abundance, more luck for the hunters.
Right.
The hunters who go into the jungle and they're at a point where for whatever reason they're out of alignment and haven't been able to kill any prey, any food to bring home. So you do a Kambo session to get back into alignment, to raise your vibration, to increase abundance and luck, and then these guys go on a hunt and they get food. So one of the things I read about was they call it the warrior's initiation, and it's 3 Kambo sessions right in a row. So like we did this morning, and then we essentially would have stayed there and in the next hour done it again, and then done it again. And they say for anyone doing it for the first time, it's really not recommended because you don't know how you're going to react.
Right.
But that sounds really intense.
Yeah.
The 3 in 1 lunar cycle is intense on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Once you'll definitely get something out of it.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
I did.
I know I did, and then after just a week in between, it was that 1 week was profound. Until the second session. And it's amazing. It's amazing bringing these rituals back into our lives. Bringing these ceremony, the ceremonial aspect of life, bringing that back into your day, what it can do for you. Beyond the physical effects, beyond the the mental clarity and the cognitive function and the connection to spirit, it's really bringing us, for me, it's been a lot about grounding back into life, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can paint the aspect of pain, which we've talked about, as it relates to your development emotionally and physically. And that a warrior's initiation is like, we're going to put you through some pain.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like a chronic pain. It's going to give you this like inoculation against pain.
Right. It's an inoculation.
And then you're just like, ooh, I got through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're ready to go. Because I have this great experience when I ran cross country in junior high. And I ran it to be in shape. I never ran. It's basically your top 4 guys or top 3 guys place your team. You have you run like 7 guys, top 3, get your points, then you win. I never ran in the seeded positions except for once in our big meet, the conference meet.
There you go.
And I was nervous because I was like, I never ran, but one of the guys got suspended, and I was like, I was in a place and run. And I ran, I was doing good, and then the last quarter mile, I went to this little turn where nobody's there watching, and I just fell over and I puked.
Oh, wow.
And I remember lying there going, I know our guys are going to win. We have a dominant team, but it's like, if I don't finish, are we going to get disqualified? And I just got up and I finished the last quarter mile.
Amazing.
And I was like, man, think about that all the time. Whenever I'm like, man, you can get through anything.
I love that.
Like I felt like I was going to puke the whole time. I probably ate too much. They were doing that stuff back then, carbo load.
Yeah, carb load.
So you were like,
load.
you ate a huge pasta meal the night before, and it's in the morning. I don't do anything. I'm not a morning guy. But that feeling of like, oh man, that was just like the worst experience. And then I got up and just finished the race, and nobody saw. So I was like, oh man, I just threw up. They're like, what? What are you talking about? And that was all me. It's like this little experience. And that is a pain inoculation where you walk away from those experiences. Whenever you guys have gotten hurt, whatever, you realize like, oh, it's just, you can get through it.
Absolutely.
And it's like you're making some kind of sacrifice. It's not just about every day getting up and just doing what pleases you.
Right.
Because the way we consume, the way we eat, the way we smoke weed, the way we do all that, it's just like, how do I make myself comfortable all the time? Right. I just want to be comfortable with everything I do.
Right.
And everything's about maximum comfort.
Yeah, and you even go to terrible jobs so you can be comfortable. You spend 8 hours a day being uncomfortable just so you can have that creature comforts at home.
Right.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, here's this thing that's like taking you out of that cycle, taking you out of that ritual of just slogging around from place to place and feeling down and telling yourself you got to get better at this or you got to do this, but then conceding every day and just doing the same shit. And this is a break in that circuit. It'll force you to change your diet for at least a couple days, and it'll force you into a painful moment that actually is like a rainbow at the end, you know? And I would recommend it. I mean,
absolutely.
What we're trying to do here with the Mindful Warrior is connect these two worlds, Yep. And I don't know. I think this could be something that anybody could benefit from, particularly athletes who are familiar with that physical sacrifice.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. The pain inoculation,
Yeah, and it's kind of controlled because it's not like you're going to break your arm and you're going to be in pain for weeks.
Right.
It's like, here's 5 minutes of intense pain.
Yeah.
And then it almost gives you an adrenaline, gives you that adrenaline rush. And it's similar to like doing things for an adrenaline rush. Where like I love running, get a runner's high. Well, here's something that's like that.
Yeah.
Like it's unpleasant, but you see the benefits of pain and how it's a long lasting post benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it fills the void of what we've talked about on here so much of, in life, there's no climactic moment.
Yeah.
There are none of these like really excited. There's very few moments to get really excited about in life and in Western modern day society, and this is one of those breaks. This is one of those ceremonial experiences that can fill that void.
And it did, man. I definitely feel
absolutely. As intense as it was, the first, going into that first session, I was, I had a lot of nerves about it. I had a lot of I don't know if fear is the right word, but I was very much anticipating like this really hard, difficult ordeal. And since then, doing it twice and a third time, I was actually looking forward to it. I was looking forward to it yesterday, and I was really looking forward to it today. And especially going through it with you, Nate. I mean, that, I think that really synced our brotherhood.
Absolutely.
And aligned our mission even further with what we want to do and what we want to bring to the athlete's perspective.
And I want to thank you, man, for bringing me in and showing me the way.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm humbled to hear you say that.
I'd say in this group, you are the shaman as well.
Thanks, man.
You are pushing the boundaries.
And so I guess the lesson here is that you don't have to feel like a shaman to try something that's going to benefit you in this regard. And you could step outside of your typical regimen of pills or whatever you use to deal with your pain or your frustrations or your blockages or whatever. And you could try something that is tried and true out in the jungle for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
This is knowledge, this is plant animal knowledge. And thanks, man. Thanks for bringing me along.
Thank you.
Yeah, this isn't
it.
like somebody on Facebook selling BS supplements.
Right.
Like these are the kind of things people need to explore, and talking about it is helpful for people to be like, oh, this is not something that some dude put some headdress on and is bullshitting me.
Right.
This is real deal stuff.
Well, our leader, it was not about her at all. She didn't want us to use her name when we're talking about it. She said, I'm not the shaman, the plants are the shaman.
Yeah.
And for example, the thing you just talked about, carbo loading. 20 years ago, that was a thing, and our scientists and our doctors and our trainers were behind it.
Pushing it.
This tribe in the jungle would never be so stupid as to push that on us. You know what I mean? Their stuff has been experimented so many times that they have it dialed in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was a great journey you guys just went on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was happy to be the shaman.
Yeah, you were
man.
pod shaman.
You were the pod sham. I love it, man.
Yeah. So,
anything else we should hit before we?
Let's. I want to tell everybody to keep sending us their stories or sharing their stories, and maybe tagging us if they want to share their story. You can email us directly at mindfulwarriorpodcast@gmail.com. If you're, want to be private and just share your story with us. Thank you so much for sending them. If you want to post them on Twitter or Instagram, just tag us.
We love it.
Yeah, it's probably the thing I did not think of what would happen to this podcast. I didn't imagine that people would be like, hey, this podcast is helping me change my life.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
And it's good to hear from other people who are going through the same thing. So if you're out there and you are wandering as a wandering mindful warrior, this is your home.
Love it, man.
That's
so true. Check us out on iTunes. Subscribe. We're also on TuneIn and Stitcher.
Make sure to rate us, too, if you like it.
Give us a rating.
Yeah, give us a rating. Write something.
Tell your friends about it. Share it with your friends and family. We like Jed said, I was not anticipating hearing from listeners telling us about their stories and what they've gone through, and that's so beautiful and enriching to this whole thing.
Yeah.
Keep sending it, guys. Keep doing it. Keep doing your thing. Keep being mindful.
Yeah, let us know if you find things that work too, and we'll look into it and talk about it. Try to find somebody, who knows more than we do.
Yeah.
And
love it.
And if there's this thing that you want to do, you want to make a change, you want to make a healthy change, you want to make a mental change, you can do it. You can do that thing, that hard thing that's in your mind that you tell yourself you're gonna, but you never do. You can do it.
Yeah.
And we're all here together going through this journey. So we love you guys. And thank you for listening to us. This has been another episode of The Mindful Warrior. We'll see you next week.
Peace. Thanks for listening to the Mindful Warrior podcast, brought to you by Athletes for Care, a health and wellness resource for athletes of all ages. Don't miss out on Nate's books, Slow Getting Up and Fantasy Man,